What's up, you guys? It's Sarah at carnivore.yogi on Instagram. Thank you for coming on to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to talk about bone broth versus meat broth. I'm going to show you how I make my meat broth and why you might want to have a meat broth instead of a bone broth. So to start off, we talk about bone broth a lot in the carnivore community. The collagen, the amazing things that will help you heal your gut, feel better, electrolytes, so many beneficial things about bone broth, and I do have a bone broth video. However, some people have a problem with histamines, and bone broth is absolutely terrible for you if you have histamine issues. Now, I'm not just making this up. A lot of this is coming from the GAPS diet, which I will put a link below this, but in the GAPS diet, they actually recommend, especially if you have histamine issues, that you stick to meat broth for the first year of the GAPS diet. Again, histamine is a neurotransmitter, and all of us have it. But what happens with people when they get histamine intolerance is that that histamine bucket gets filled up, and there's histamine in all kinds of things. I'll put another link below the video of some foods that contain histamine. Bone broth is way up there on that list. And so people get a histamine intolerance, like their histamine bucket overflows, gets full, and they have issues like rashes. A lot of kids with autism, ADHD have neurological issues. When you give them the bone broth, they have behaviors. And adults, you know, if you have histamine, you may start to experience depression or anxiety, rashes, GI distress, diarrhea. I mean, these are just a few things that can happen to you with histamine intolerance. If you have one, comment below with your histamine intolerance symptoms. So that's why I feel like this video is so super important. To kind of put out there into the carnivore keto community, because we overhype the bone broth and we don't necessarily talk about people who have histamine intolerance. And if you're doing the carnivore diet, more than likely you do have some issues with histamine that you might be wanting to heal. So I'm going to show you how to make this, my version of this. So there are several different versions of this out there on the internet, but this is just my version. This is what I have been doing. I've also been using, and I'll show you in a second, super lean meat for this broth, because I am trying to leach out potassium from that meat to go into that broth. So I am doing some electrolyte supplementation, but this is all a part of that electrolyte supplementation routine. I'm trying to leach the potassium out of that super lean meat, because super lean meat is going to give you the most potassium. So let's just jump right in, you guys. Let me show you what you're going to need to make your meat broth. It's very simple. So I have right here 2 pounds, actually it's like 1.75 pounds of top sirloin. So this is a very lean meat. As I mentioned, the potassium in this meat will be a big part of the broth, a big part of why I'm doing it, and you're gonna get all those gut healing properties. So I'm gonna use 1.75 pounds of this meat. I'm gonna put it in my pot. Now, if you are extremely sensitive to histamines, I'm gonna say skip this and just do meat. Don't even add the bones in. But I am going to, because I know I have done some gut healing and this does not bother me, does not activate my histamine issues. I'm going to do these grass-fed oxtail bones. I am not going to roast my bones, because roasting the bones before you make the broth, if you have a histamine issue, can cause irritation. So I'm just literally gonna put these bones and this meat right into my pot. I also want to say super quickly, I'm not an affiliate or sponsored by this company, but I use their products to continue and further my own gut healing. Kidney, and you can eat kidney also, but I take these supplements every single day for gut health, as well as colostrum. These two supplements are gonna help you kind of seal up those holes in your leaky gut. So if you're having histamine problems, I recommend those. But let's go ahead and get that broth going. All right, guys, so the meat and the oxtail are all in here covered with filtered water, which I do think is important. And I'm gonna put it in my Instant Pot. So the big difference between the bone broth and the meat broth is gonna be, number one, the amount of time that you're gonna cook it. And number two, you're not gonna do things like roast the bones in the oven. You're not gonna add any apple cider vinegar. So those are some differences. And for me, I'm not a super scientific person when it comes to the way that I cook things and do things, but I have read that for every 2 pounds of meat that you use about 1.5 gallons of water. So those are some ratios that hopefully can help you out here. Again, I'm not super scientific in all of my things here, but that's a good ratio if you're curious. So let's go ahead and put this on the Instant Pot. Okay, so I'm actually gonna hit the soup setting, but I'm gonna move that way down to be just 90 minutes. So if you don't have an Instant Pot, you can also do this on the stovetop for about 4 hours, I would say, would be the max that you'd want to cook this. So some recipes call for 2 or 3 hours on stovetop, but 4 hours is really your max that you're going to want to do this on the stovetop. Again, we're trying to help you so that you don't have that histamine reaction. You get the potassium out of the meat, and you really get all the full benefits of bone broth without the reaction to it. 90 minutes in the Instant Pot. We are all good to go. I'm gonna take you over to the sink and show you what comes next. So our meat broth is ready here. What I'm gonna do is pour it into this colander, strain it out. Okay. This is the meat that's left. I am gonna use this meat. I'm gonna use it to feed my family more than likely, and myself. It's very useful. But I'm gonna go ahead and just pop a top on this guy and put it into the refrigerator. Okay guys, so that pot will sit in my refrigerator for probably 3 hours or so, 4 hours, until the cap of fat comes up to the top. I'll take the fat cap off and I will fill up a couple jars just like this, like probably 2 mason jars, to drink within the next 24 hours. The rest of that broth I will put into silicone ice trays, which I have, and I'll put a link below this video if you are interested in getting some silicone ice trays, and I will keep them in my freezer. So when I'm ready to drink that meat broth, and this is for histamines also, I will pop it into a pan on the stove, melt it down, pour it into a mug, probably put some ghee and a little teeny bit of Redmond's in it to drink. But again, for histamines, you do want to probably freeze a lot of that broth right off. You don't want to keep it in the refrigerator for a super long time. So again, below this video, I will pop the link to those silicone molds that I use to keep that broth in my freezer. So I hope this was helpful, guys. If you have histamine issues, or if you're interested in just drinking meat broth to up your potassium, this is a very viable, easy thing for you to do. Please comment below if there's another video that you would like me to make, and thank you so much for tuning into my channel. Bye guys.